Previously on Starstruck Shiny.
Note, there are scrolling multi-choices in Pokémon Emerald, but those are more complicated and volatile that they deserve their own tutorial.
That, my viewers, is the script tutorial about scrolling multi-choices. There are two major parts to this tutorial, the Emerald part and the FireRed part. I will start by showing you where you can find the two scrolling multi-choice tables in Emerald, as well as their layout. Then there will be a long section on how you can edit the tables. Since scrolling multi-choices are more complex, you will have to be more careful with how you make the changes. Once you saved your changes, we can talk about using them in scripts. And we will finish off by inserting some code that will let us have scrolling multi-choices in FireRed too. Before we start, this video is sponsored by boot.dev. It's important to make a backup of your ROM regularly, so that if you mess up complicated changes like these, you won't be stuck in a precarious situation. We can do this by clicking File and Export Backup, or pressing Ctrl E to show this pop-up. I will type in the most recent change I made to this ROM, which was a move animation I showcased in another video. Click OK and the backup of your ROM and its .toml file will be ready for you. In the folder that has the ROM hack you're working on, you will see a Backups folder. Inside the folder, you will see a fresh copy of the GBA and .toml file that you just made. With all that, we can start this show. Pokémon Emerald has a scrolling multi-choice table and a corresponding settings table that controls stuff under the hood. The keyword here is scrolling, so in the Go-To menu, I'm going to type scrolling and click Scripts and Text. You will see that the two tables are right here. There's scrolling multi-choice and scrolling settings. The thing is that both tables are linked to each other, so we can just go to the main one, which is scrolling multi-choice. Whoa, what am I looking at here? There are so many buttons, text boxes, and pointers. Where do we even start? First, I'm going to scroll to the right, and it will become apparent that this is like another spreadsheet, where on the rows you have different multi-choice groups. And each row has 16 columns, where the columns are pointers to text. In Pokémon Emerald, there are a total of 12 multi-choice slots, and they're not used all that often. They're used in places like Route 113, where you can exchange soot for items, or in Slateport City, where you can use berry powder to get certain items, like vitamins. So as for the table layout, there are 16 text fields from text 0 to text F. All of these are either pointers to text strings or null pointers, as you don't need to use all 16 choices. You can control-click one of the pointers and it will take you to the location where the text data is stored. Lastly, on the bottom there's a small thing that says Scripts Text Scrolling Settings, and it has a pointer to something labeled thumb. Let's go to this table. As you can see here, there are 12 pointers and they match the 12 multi-choice groups. All of them point to thumb code. So I'm going to click on the first one for the blue flute one, and you want to select bytes until you reach the next 00 byte with a circumflex on top, which in this case is 0x18 bytes. What you see now is some thumb code, and it might not make sense to you, and that's totally okay. It just configures certain aspects of each multi-choice table, such as how many options to show. When editing different multi-choices, you might want to make changes to this thumb code. In other words, only change the code if you know what you're doing or if you're being told to do it. Because these two tables are linked, if you do expand this table, which is safe to do so, you will get a new pointer to thumb code and a new group of 16 options to populate. The last thing I want to mention is that some multi-choice tables are hard-coded to do other things, such as show item pictures as well. That will be out of scope of this tutorial because I don't actually know how that's programmed in the game. It kinda just is what it is. Now that you're familiar with the layouts, we can start configuring our own scrolling multi-choices. Returning to the scrolling multi-choices table, one of the first things you can do is just expand the table, in case you don't want to touch the existing scrolling multi-choices. Go to the last option and then click Add One New. And you'll see that a lot of stuff got repointed. Everything's fine though, nothing broke. Like with any table expansion in HMA, the new table entries are just going to be repeats of the previous one. So like these two multi-choices that have battle trainers, battle basics, etc. are the same for now. We could click the repoint button until the cows come home, but I have a better idea. In the Hex content viewer, in the very last row of pointers, just make everything a null pointer for now. Ah, I suck at typing. I'll just copy and paste the rest just to simplify the process. Now that we have no text data right now, we can decide what we want this multi-choice to represent. The sky is the limit, for the most part. I decided on 9 options, and they are all going to be first names. I can use the same scrolling multi-choice for multiple NPCs that want to ask different things, such as your favorite character, quizzing which character is the oldest, or asking which character is the best written. I'm going to click Create New Data 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my god, why does it lag so much? I'm gonna get all the names in real quick.
Later.
That's all 9 character names. And as you can tell, I'm totally not obsessing over a video game right now. We will get back to this later. In addition to making brand new scrolling multi-choices, you can also edit the existing multi-choices, in case you want to add more options or change the names. For instance, I can alter the Route 113 scrolling multi-choice, so that it only offers the flutes and the gold chain, which I made in an old tutorial. How does he make gold out of glass? Nanomachine, son! I will replace the pretty desk option with exit, and then make the text 7 field a null pointer. Now that you've changed the number of options this multi-choice slot has, you have to make some more changes to balance it out. You will have to navigate back to the settings table, select the necessary bytes to show all the thumb code, and you have to change one number that's next to a hashtag. It's this instruction, move R0 hashtag 8, specifically the instruction that's on top of str_h R0 R3 hashtag 10. I just changed the 8 to 7 since there are now 7 choices. Going back to the new scrolling multi-choice we made, we now need to give it the right thumb code. How about we borrow thumb code from another multi-choice? Let's pick the 9th one where everything starts with battle. This one has 10 choices. That is close enough. Let's go to its thumb code, select the bytes, and then copy the code. Oh right, the quick menu is cut off, so I'm just going to add some comments to one of the lines, so you can actually see all the options. There we go! Oh right, now we have to find free space. Luckily there are small regions over here in between the strings. I'll choose this address, make sure it's divisible by 4, and then paste. Using this BL instruction instead of B was my first idea. Now I honestly didn't test to see if this worked, but you don't necessarily have to jump to this address. Pause here if you want to read some technical details. You know what, I will just dissect the whole thumb code so we can just make it ourselves. Here's a handy dandy legend that will match particular numbers with important properties. Always start with move R1 hashtag 0, and pretty much everything else sets the properties of the multi-choice anytime it's called. Think of the following lines as pairs. There will always be a move R0 hashtag and a number, followed by a str_h R0 R3 and then another hashtag number. At first, what's being stored in memory is the maximum number of items on screen, indicated by hashtag 8 in the str_h command. Then the next thing that's being stored is an hashtag 10, which is the number of items, and I had 9 characters, so I should change the move R0 hashtag 10 to move R0 hashtag 9. Next, the thing that's being configured in hashtag 12 is the X coordinate relative to the left of the screen. You can configure this however you want. You can say 1 to put the box all the way to the left, or I can say 18 to put it far to the right. Similarly, hashtag 14 corresponds to the Y coordinate. Number 1 means the top, and you can't really go much lower than that. That's because the screen isn't all that tall, and the bottom of it is usually reserved for text. Hashtag 16 corresponds to the width, and for my testing, changing this number doesn't seem to do anything, so you might as well just leave it. Quick question, what is this move R0 hashtag 12 supposed to be for? Actually, as an alternative, I think I will just get rid of this branch long instruction, and just copy the rest of the code. So like as you see here in one of the vanilla thumb code segments, there's a branch to 13A2BE as well, so I'm just going to navigate to that address next. And the rest of the code will be right here. First I'm going to copy these 3 str_h instructions, and I will have to add a comment to one of them so that the copy menu shows up properly. And going back to our code, I'm going to delete this branch link instruction and paste our thumb code here. There are these two pop and branch exchange instructions as well. We will copy and paste those too. This will round out our custom thumb code. Oh, by the way, hashtag 18 corresponds to the multi-choice box's height. For best results, make sure the height is set to 2 times the number of options on screen. If the height is too low or too high, you will run into graphical glitches. Also, since we expanded the scrolling multi-choice table, we will have to do one special thing. Going back to the scrolling settings table, we will need to click the first thumb code pointer. And then we have to scroll up in the hex content and select these bytes, because there's more thumb code you will want to see. There's only one line here that matters to us. It's this one, compare R0 hashtag 12. For all intents and purposes, this line is what's preventing us from using new multi-choices. Honestly, we can change this 12 to a very high number like 99, and the game won't try to stop our creativity for a long time. I am confident that the new multi-choice that we just made will work properly when tested in game. We will test it in the next objective, but one thing I do want to test now is the flutes one. I want to see if the changes I made worked, and I don't have to edit any NPC script code. Okay, I like what I see here. The only options that show up are exit, the 5 flutes, and my gold chain. Now I didn't edit what the bottom 2 options do, but we can get to that if there's time. Back to HMA. We've been talking about making changes for about 7 minutes now, so we'll gather everything we've learned into a complete example. In the scrolling multi-choice table, I will add one more, and then I will immediately repoint this one to all of the 9 duplicate strings. And come on, stop lagging. If only I could add more RAM on this computer. But I've heard that the cost of RAM sticks has skyrocketed recently. Anyways, that aside, we have to decide what we want this multi-choice to do, and I decided on using all 16 options for different hidden power types. Getting all the type names will take a while. Cue the montage! Yeah, that's all the hidden power types. Well, not counting poison, but who needs it in Generation 3? Now we need to give this multi-choice its own thumb code. I'll pick another free space address that's close by, like 525AD0. For this complete example, we will write the thumb code from scratch. Like with all the other ones, you start with move R1 hashtag 0. Then I'm going to decide the maximum number of items to put on screen. I wanted 7 items on the screen, so I'm going to do move R0 hashtag 7, which is a mistake because you can only have 6 options on screen at a time or fewer. Next up is the total number of multi-choice options, which for this one is 16, so it's move R0 hashtag 16. Subsequently, we will need strh, R0, R3, and hashtag 10. For the x-coordinate, we can do 25, which is pretty far to the right, so we need our move instruction to specify just that. The matching command afterwards is strh, R0, R3, and hashtag 12. Don't put 13, that's a mistake. For the y-coordinate, we will just do the top, so the next thing is going to be move R0 hashtag 1. As per the legend, we will pair this with strh, R0, R3, and hashtag 14. We're going to set the width to 2, which honestly doesn't really matter all that much. For most of these numbers, I'm choosing them arbitrarily, so you can always go back and change them if you don't like how it looks in game. My next line of code is move R0 hashtag 12. This makes the multi-choice's height 12, which is perfect if the original move R0 was a 6 instead of a 7. Follow this line up with strh, R0, R3, hashtag 18. That's actually everything you have to do from scratch. At this point, you can go to address 13A2BE and copy the rest of the code. This way, you could put the thumb code anywhere in the ROM and you don't have to jump to anywhere. When I click back off and click back onto the thumb code to refresh the code tool, all of this code is basically what you need to get the new multi-choice to function, and you can always change a couple of numbers here and there. Always be sure to test that this thumb code is working in your ROM. And I think that's everything I wanted to talk about when it comes to this objective. We are ready to use our scrolling multi-choices in NPC scripts. I have to pick up the pace. My first new script is going to be in Slateport City. I'm going to edit this woman by the 2 flowers, by changing her script address to a new address in free space. Before showing a multi-choice option, usually you want the NPC to say something, and you do that with prepare message auto and wait message. Put some brackets after the prepare message command, and you can decide what you want her to say. Out of 9 different Omori characters, I'm going to have her ask the player which one they think is the best written. Here are the required commands for showing a scrolling multi-choice in Pokémon Emerald. Start with set var, var4, and then the ID of the multi-choice you want to use, which for me is 13. Next up is special, and then type scrolling to filter out the choices, and you want show scrollable multi-choice. Following that command, you want wait state and lock. With the script code we have so far, this is enough to make the scrollable multi-choice show up, but the options aren't going to mean anything. But we can change that by starting with copy var, var2, var result. The first one doesn't have to be var2, it could be anything from var0 to varb. Then you're going to need a lot of if compare goto commands. They will all be like if compare goto var2 double equals 0 and then a pointer to a section. I'm going to copy and paste this line 8 more times and then 1 more in case the player presses B. So we're going to have 9 different checks for 9 different options and then 1 more check for the cancel option. You will want to ensure that there are different numbers after each double equal sign. So I'm just going to make these numbers in increasing order starting from 0. For the last line, I'm going to change the sign to a greater than or equal to sign and keep the number at 9. That way it's going to handle any input that's not one of the 9 choices. Similarly, I will change the section names so that they are all unique for each pointer, and I'm starting at section 1 instead of section 0 because section 0 is already taken. This is similar to what we did in the original multi-choices table. Because sections 1 through 9 are pretty much going to be the same for this multi-choice, I'm not going to show all of them to save time. I will also start with section 10 anyway. Section 10 can have a message box autoclose macro and an end command. She is going to say this text if you press the B button on the list of options. All other sections are going to have the same syntax. The woman is going to say a message reacting to your choice, which is going to be a vague description about the Omori character. In this case, section 1 is going to describe Sunny a little bit. Each section will be topped off with one end command. Copy and paste the section 8 more times and change the section numbers. It is a tiny bit tedious, admittedly. Maybe that's why there aren't many multi-choices. Scrolling multi-choices, that is. It took me 6 minutes to come up with different responses to the different choices, which is about half of my footage so far. I'm not going to showcase anything new, so I'm just going to skip to the end result for the script and start testing it. Yeah, this is a pretty long script. And I actually forgot to scroll through the different message boxes. My bad. You will see some of them in-game. Also, as I'm loading the save file, it's a good idea to mute the game audio, as the game could crash with a really annoying sound if you made a critical mistake with the multi-choice. Look at what we made! Immediately what stood out to me was that the multi-choice box wasn't far to the right enough. Also, there's a large blank space after the word basil. I pulled up this multi-choice's thumb code ahead of time so we can make hotfixes. First, I'm going to change the height to 10 to match 2 times the number of options on screen at a time, which is 5, and then it will further increase the x-coordinate. How about 27? Now we're talking! I'm now content with the looks of it. I can scroll up and down and you can see all the answer choices, and if I press B, she says, "Oh, you have nothing to say? I guess that's just how it is." If I pick the first character, she says this. I can talk to her again and answer with Aubrey, and she sort of acknowledges her multi-layered personality. Here is what she says about Mari. And the last one I'll show for today is her thoughts on Chris. Oh, the dialogue for Mincy is cut off, but that's an easy fix. Yeah, I think we've successfully assembled all the moving parts to this scrolling multi-choice. So actually, for testing purposes, I already made the script for the second multi-choice that we made today. It's this man right here, and I'm going to go to his script. Ugh, it put the script data in the wrong tab. I wanted something else there. Alright, let me go to that script address manually in the other tab, and I'm going to press the back arrow a couple of times to get to where I wanted. So this guy's script is kind of incomplete. Like, it shows the multi-choice, but doesn't really do anything with it. This script has set var, var4, 14, so that it loads the other scrolling multi-choice that we just made, and then there's the requisite special command. Another thing to point out is that there's a message box macro before the set var instead of a prepare message command. This means that when you press the A button, this message box will close and all you will see next is the scrollable multi-choice. In the other tab, I wanted to show you the thumb code for this multi-choice again. Just give me a second to select the bytes. One multi-choice property I glossed over is the keep open property, represented by #20 next to R3. Unlike the other str_h commands, the first argument is R1, and at the very start of the code we have move R1 #0. This means that selecting an option will clear the multi-choice box. For some reason, if you really want to, you can change the #0 to a #1 so that the multi-choice box remains on the screen. Let's reload the ROM one more time. So the guy starts off by just saying his regular messages, but then afterwards, the message disappears and all you see is the scrolling multi-choice. You can scroll down to see all the options that don't really matter in the end, and oh yeah, there's a mistake I made in the script that I forgot about. After the special command, I forgot to add a wait state and lock command. This is why, if you notice, the man keeps moving while I'm deliberating what choice I wanted to make. Alright, I just clicked on flying. Notice that I'm able to move May around and the multi-choice box is still there. There are some use cases for having scrolling multi-choices stay open like this, but you usually don't want this to happen. I'm just going to revert the move R1 back to #0. There is one more thing I wanted to show. It's not in this Emerald demo hack, but one of my other Emerald hacks. Here is an existing implementation of type-based hidden powers based on a scrolling multi-choice. I can use this to teach Umbreon Hidden Power Dark. Pretty cool, huh? This is everything you need to know about Pokémon Emerald's scrolling multi-choices. Unexpectedly, this is the end of the video. Adding the FireRed part would actually make the video like 35 minutes long, and I realized this last minute. Either way, thank you all for watching this tutorial up to now. I hope you find this information useful as you keep developing your Overworld scripts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and may 2026 be a great year for us all.